So before we head right into a third Poonchkin recipe here, we need to think about what is it that we want out of a Poonchkin? What are the vital components? What are the things that really make a Poonchkin a Poonchkin? Let's break this down into the functions and figure out what are the important things that we need to make a Poonchkin, and how do we accomplish that with the ingredients and the tools that we have available. So come here and take a look at this with me. So first, the ingredients here. We got yeast, of course, and milk. We got yolks, and we've got melted butter that we've used, flour, of course, and sugar, salt, and rum. Now, are all these vital? Well, let's think here. Yeast, we're talking traditional donuts, really traditional donuts. It's got to have yeast, okay? Pretty much all of the Poonchkin recipes that I looked up use milk. And it makes sense. I mean, if you're thinking about Poonchkin, you're thinking about Lent, you're thinking about Fat Tuesday, you're thinking about all the ingredients that you don't want in your house. Milk, that's an extra thing that you might want to forego. Milk's going to give us a little bit extra in the flavor department, more proteins, more milk fat. It's going to not only affect the flavor, but also affect the type of dough and the crumb that we get out of that. So yolks, using primarily yolks, that's another common theme, both in Poonchkin and in brioche dough, which is basically what the Poonchkin is. So now melted butter, a few of the Poonchkin recipes that I looked up use melted butter, and I think this was just for the ease of the home cook, because the majority of the Poonchkin recipes, the real traditional ones, the real authentic ones, and the real professional ones use softened butter, and they usually mix it in once the dough has already been incorporated. So we'll come back to that. Flour, of course, it's a pastry, we need flour. Sugar, it's a sweet pastry, so we need sugar. Salt, obviously, lots of baked goods use salt as a way of affecting flavor and as a way of affecting the way that the yeast does its work. And rum, not all Poonchkin recipes call for this, but certainly a number of them did. And so I included it, and of course we tried flipping that over to molasses, which we thought, well, if rum is made from sugar cane, it's made from molasses usually. And so we went the molasses route at first. For the second pass around, we switched it to maple syrup, which, might not be authentic. Maple syrup is a uniquely American flavor, but honestly, both molasses and maple syrup offer that sweet but also earthy flavor quality. So we've got our basic vital ingredients that we need to add into this thing. So now, let's get to the process. With the yeast and the milk, we were mixing those together to proof them. And for the first two recipes, we went about it like this. We needed to heat our milk to 110 degrees in order to add the yeast. The yeast doesn't activate as well at colder temperatures, so you don't want cold milk. You don't even want room temperature milk. You want nice warm milk. 110 degrees is right about where you want it. You go hotter than that, you go too hot, the yeast is going to die. But after looking into this a little bit closer, one of the things I learned is that you want to scald the milk. And I used the word scald before, but what that really means is you want to bring the milk up to about 180 before you cool it down to 110. Bringing it up to 180 deactivates some of the proteins in the milk that actually get in the way of gluten formation. And so this time, scald it to 180 degrees and then bring the heat back down to 110 and then add in our yeast. And at that point, we are going to fully incorporate, fully dissolve our yeast. Fully dissolving the yeast into the milk at this stage is going to be very important to make sure that the yeast is fully dispersed through our mixture. We don't have a stand mixer to use to incorporate all of the ingredients, so we want to make the mixing and kneading portion of our dough formation as easy as we can on our hands, because these are our mixing tools for this recipe. Now once we get our milk and yeast going, the next big problem is how to mix everything without overworking the dough. So that became a problem, especially in the second recipe when we switched over to softened butter instead of melted butter. It really became a mess of how to work everything together by hand in a bowl without using a mixer. And we solved this problem basically with two different things. First, we change around the order of how we're mixing these ingredients together. And second, we use a couple different techniques that I wasn't aware of in the prior recipes. So, for the order, what are we going to do? We're still doing this first. That hasn't changed. But we're going to take care of all of our liquids first. So we got the milk, we got the yeast. The yeast is going to get dissolved into the milk, so it is a liquid. We got our yolks next. They're basically a liquid. Milk and yeast, then the yolks. And while we're at the yolks, we'll do the maple syrup. We're also adding vanilla at this stage. I didn't list it as one of the vital ingredients here because you can take it or leave it. It's used in so many baking recipes that we did include it. But after liquids come our flour, which is of course just flour. Liquids, then flour. After that comes our sugar and salt. Why are we waiting till now? Can't we mix in the sugar into our liquids like a lot of recipes do? Sugar and salt both can hinder gluten formation. Now salt we've been avoiding initially because salt can kill yeast. And so waiting to add the sugar and salt at this stage after we've already got the yeast and the flour and all of this mixed together into a dough is going to help foster a better gluten environment. Now that's going to cause a problem because it's going to make it harder to incorporate that into an already formed dough. And then finally, butter. And of course we are using our softened butter, not the melted butter. A lot of the professional recipes, you see them adding in pats of butter one at a time into the mixer while it's spinning the dough around. We don't have that, so that poses another problem, as well as the sugar and the salt at this stage. Procedure. Once we get the liquids and the flour all incorporated together, all mixed together, we've got a dough at this point. We're going to let that dough hydrate. That means we let this dough sit for about 30 minutes in order for all of the gluten in the flour to be able to absorb moisture from all of the liquids. So we're going to let that hydrate for 30 minutes. Then the sugar and salt. We've got a dough at this point. These aren't going to be easy to just mix in. We can't just dump them into the liquids and stir until they're all mixed. We've got to work this into the dough. We're going to fold that in. We don't want to work it too much. We don't want to be kneading the dough to get this sugar and salt in there. But we're going to carefully fold it in. It's still going to be work, but we've got to be careful about it because we don't want to overwork it. Same problem with the butter. What are we going to do with the butter? We can't just stir it to incorporate it. We've got a dough. Same thing. We're going to fold it in. What does that look like? It's really messy. And so, how do you fold in butter at this point? You're going to have to get your hands a little dirty. and your countertop and everything around you, because we are going to use a technique called fraisage. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but we'll call it fraisage. Sounds like massage, and that's basically what it is. We're going to massage this butter in. We're going to use the palms of our hands and really just spread it in by just kind of smearing it all over our counter. We're going to do that. We're going to reincorporate it into a ball, into a mass, and then we're going to do it again. And we're going to do that over and over and over again until we've got the kind of stretchiness that you expect to see out of dough. Once we've got our butter dough worked in with fraisage and the heel of our hands, it's time to slap and fold. We're basically going to gather up the dough together, slap it down onto the counter, fold it, do a quarter turn, pick it up, slap it down again, fold it, quarter turn. We're going to do that for a good 8 minutes to give you the kind of kneading that you need out of the dough to really work the gluten and build the structure and network that you want. Slap and fold is going to be important with our dough because it's going to be a very wet, sticky dough, especially with the butter added in at this last stage that we did. Now you might run into a problem where it's just too sticky to work with, even doing slap and fold. You might need to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the top and on your counter. That's okay. Don't overdo it. You don't want to add in too much more flour at this point. You want it to be a well-hydrated dough. Once we've got gluten structure developed, we're going to put it into a bowl. We're going to do a room temperature rise. So this is going to be 1 hour, and we're going to let it sit at room temperature in our bowl covered, and it's going to rise up, and it's going to probably double in size. Once that's done, is it time to make the donuts? No. We're going to do an overnight rise in the refrigerator. We're going to move the whole bowl, still covered, into the fridge and let it continue to rise overnight. This is technically enough. You can make the donuts at this point. This is going to add an extra level to the flavor and the texture and everything you want to see. This is going to give the yeast extra time to ferment. It's really going to make a difference to the dough that you get at the end, especially if you're going for a brioche kind of dough like we are. So now we've just got to go and do all these steps. Oh wait, we already did. Time to make the donuts. Still a little raw in the middle there. so need a little bit longer to cook. Close. We're almost back down to 350. This time, as soon as it gets to 350, I'm gonna throw Poonchkin in there, and I'm going to turn the heat from low back up to about 3, so that while the Poonchkin is cooling down the oil, the heat will be on the oil from the bottom, and we'll try to keep it level, because we don't want the up and down on the heat. We want to keep it as level as possible. This might be it, guys. This might be the one Poonchkin recipe to rule them all. At least out of the ones I've made. Let's try the Bavarian cream first. I'm excited about this is true Bavarian cream, unlike the Bostonian cream that we used last time, which I actually rather liked. I'm not sure which I like more, to tell the truth, but let's give this a try here. That is a Poonchkin. Oh my gosh. That's it. I mean, if there's one place that I'm still lacking on, it's the frying. Being able to fry it consistently at the right temperature with the right setup. Difficult, to say the least, but this worked. Let's rip it open and take a look at the... It's fluffy, it's pillowy, it's not dense, it's not oil saturated, it doesn't taste like a carnival elephant ear, it tastes like a Poonchkin. Let's give the Poonchkin a try now. It's so wonderful. I mean, it's the Poonchkin flavor, the Poonchkin type donut, but you've got this surprise of fall pumpkin flavor that you never see in a Poonchkin. It's great. Fisher's got to try this. We've got to take this to the inventor to get his seal of approval. All right, we got Fisher here, the inventor of the Poonchkin. So you want to try? You want to give your invention a try? This is the second iteration of the Poonchkin. What do you think?
It tastes good.
Do you like the dough a little bit better than the last time?
Yeah.
The little donut holes even turned out pretty good. Do you think more people should try these?
Mm-hmm. So they can eat these too.
How do you feel about inventing a donut?
I don't know.
I think we finally made a nice, successful Poonchkin.
A nice successful Poonchkin.
And a nice, successful Poonchkin. So from all of us at Cooking Without a Full Pantry, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, all that. Eat some Poonchkin. And Poonchkins. Alright. See you later.